so we can be on time and hopefully not be scrunched at the end of the meeting. So, good afternoon, everyone. We have a full quorum of the board, and we have some guests. And of course, we have to remember the open meeting law, and so we have a full agenda today also. So, moving right along, I'm going to jump right into the announcements, and I have a couple myself, which I'll kick it off with. And I want the board to know that Lorelei has stepped up and offered to be our secretary from now and through June, when we have our annual meeting and reorganize, a group of officers and things then. So thank you, Lorelei, for doing that for us. We really appreciate it. I appreciate it. David's got his thumb up. I'm sure everybody, Ann Lee, everybody's appreciating.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sure. So Susan too. So thank you very much. And the other announcement I have is just to call your attention to the board's attention to the fact that our agenda for the joint meeting with the select board tonight says the time is 6 p.m. We, however, are not, and that meeting is in person in room 103. However, we didn't know the time. We only knew their meeting was starting at 6 when we had to get our agenda in, get it posted. And the actual time that we are discussing meeting with them will be 7 o'clock, 7:10, I believe, is they're targeting on their agenda. Just so you know, you probably wouldn't even be able to get in at 6 because I think they're in an executive session from 6 to 6:30 or so, something like that. Just wanted to let you all know so that not everyone's rushing to get down there at 6 and not being able to get in. But we do have a posted agenda at least, so. Okay. Anybody else have any announcements? Those two are weighing heavily upon me. So I wanted to clarify the time of tonight's activity, so.
Just a reminder that that's also joint with FinCom, so I'll be kind of doing a joint.
That's okay.
True joint meeting.
You're gonna wear 3 hats? 2 or 3 hats?
Yeah, and I had to ask if I was allowed to speak for both, and I am, so.
Oh, good.
So if we have a vote or something, I'll be able to do either one. So.
Okay.
Good, very good.
Yep, that's great. Anyone else with any announcements? We were talking a few minutes ago about how the little pantry at the First Baptist Church in the parking lot is very busy lately. So, and they are still accepting donations if people like to drop things off.
Great. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, we will move on to the minutes and the minutes of the March 14th meeting. Okay, anyone have any corrections or changes that they're recommending or want to bring up? If not, we can entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Anita.
Second it.
And Gary. All right, we have a motion to accept the minutes of the March 14th as the minutes of March 14th meeting as they are written. So we'll do our little roll call vote. Anita?
Yes.
Anita is a yes. Okay, Mark?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Thank you. Gary?
Yes.
Lorelei?
Yes.
Ann Lee?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Marilyn? Marilyn? Can you hear me? Marilyn, can you hear the conversation?
Oh, I can again. Yes, I lost it and now I am. And
Okay,
I vote yes.
okay, thank you. I was worried there for a minute. And Marge is a yes. So we have a unanimous vote on the minutes. Thank you all. Okay, so, and next on the agenda is a Friends report, and Holly Stewart is with us. And I would like to introduce Holly to the board. She is effective last Wednesday. She has taken over as the president of the Friends. anticipated probably for 3 to 5 months while the Nancy Levine is having knee surgery and recovering from her surgery. And Holly has jumped right into her job and she's here to fill us in a little bit. Oh, and Nancy's here now too. That's great. Good to hear.
I also let Susan in.
And Susan Hogg? Yeah. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't know. I'm assuming that Holly is going to be the speaker, but maybe I shouldn't make an assumption, knowing what happens to do that. But she is the president, as I understand things. So whoever is going to speak on behalf of the Friends, please feel welcome to speak.
Thank you all. I will be speaking for the Friends today, and I encourage my cohorts to chime in if I miss anything or they want to add any comments. We met on April 6th, and we have 7 items to share with you today. Our first being the Memorandum of Understanding, which I believe is also on your agenda. And we distributed a template to our board. And this is a working document to enhance our partnership with the COA and establish mutually acceptable expectations. And we'll be working on this for the next several weeks. And I actually look forward to really getting my hands on this, and as I'm a new member. So I think it'll be very helpful. Our last bylaws were in 2015. So I think it's time and it's prudent on all of us to revisit what our goals and expectations and partnership is in working together. The second item we had on our agenda was a special fund for the director of EHS. And we are actively exploring a special fund for miscellaneous expenses that can be accessed without delay. And the amount of this fund and the cap for individual expenses are being discussed with Liz directly. So we'll look forward to having her input and working collaboratively on a fund that would make it easier to access money for things that you need. Number 3 is the Friends Enrichment opportunity. And we have 3 board members who are signed up to attend 3 consecutive monthly meetings with the state. And we will be learning, hopefully, best practices of the Friends boards. And so we'll look forward to kind of collaborating with our Friends folks from around the state to get best practices and figure out how other Friends groups operate. So that's a 3-month course. And like I said, there are 3 of us that are signed up for that. So that'll be fun. And 4th is our appeals letter. That was sent out townwide. And as of this date, we have received $3,560 in donations. And we hope that that will continue to be increased as time goes on. And we'll look for other opportunities to have some kind of a letter that will encourage people to donate to the Friends. Our expenditures this month, we had a request for $300 to support the Tower Hill Gardens, and that was approved unanimously by our board. We also purchased a 1-year permit from the town to conduct raffles. And our first one being hopefully this Saturday, working in conjunction with the Park and Rec at the Easter breakfast at Shaker Lane School. And we have 2 gift baskets that we're ready to auction off, and hopefully that will go into our funds. And we have a number of other fundraising ideas percolating, and we'll mention those to you after our board discusses them and approves. So stay tuned. And finally, our last one is, of course, the Thrift Shop. Woohoo! We're anxiously awaiting news for reopening our Thrift Shop. We've received a lot of enthusiasm for this people are offering donations and are looking forward to having an attractive place and a larger space in the future. Not only for a place to shop, but also as another way to socialize with each other. And, it could be a win-win for all of us to open up this thrift shop as soon as possible, because we have a lot of enthusiasm and trying to make it a boutique kind of thing, not only clothing, but home goods, and a real benefit to the town for people who want to shop thriftily, as they say. So I guess that's it for me. We had a busy meeting and look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Yes, Mark. Mark has his hand raised.
Yeah, Holly, welcome aboard. I
Thank
just
you.
had one quick question for you. Of the monies raised, you said 3560. How much of that was for the Friends of the COA in general, and how much of that was towards the building fund?
I will get that for you.
Thank you.
There were 48 donations, and it looks like, hold on. So many papers.
While Holly's looking, Marge, may I jump
Yes.
in?
Yes,
one
certainly,
second.
Liz.
I did receive a check from Andy, the co-treasurer of the Friends, for $900 for the new building gift fund. So if, I'm not sure if the 3,000 number that Holly mentioned was with that 900 included or without that, but that was on my report for later on to say that we received that generous donation.
Great. That's wonderful news.
I thought I might have specifics for you, but I'm happy to get back to you with that. I just have the total donation, and I'm looking to see if it was differentiated, but I don't know if Andy's on board here at the moment. He has.
Yeah, Liz is nodding her head. No, he's not with us right now.
Okay.
So-
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Holly? You've been busy.
We
Lot
have
going
been.
on. Yes, you
Well,
have.
I think it's been a long hiatus, to be honest with you, after 2 years of kind of being a little bit more dormant. And I think we're trying to get re-energized and enthused and working together and bringing this forward now that we're kind of reopening and establishing more of a routine. And so we're very happy about that.
Well, thank you. And we're looking forward to dealing and working with you. We all
Thank
have the
you.
same goals in mind. I know. So,
Yes, we do.
yes. So great, Holly. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hearing no other comments or discussion from the friends or about that, Holly's report. I see that we can, I'm sorry. Do you want to say something, Gary? Was
Yeah,
that you?
I'm just wishing Nancy a quick recovery, hopefully sooner than later, and we're thinking
Okay.
about her.
That's true. I'm not exactly sure when she's having her surgery, but she'll be out for a while. So we'll keep tabs. Holly will keep us informed, I'm sure. I'm hopeful anyway. So, all right. Moving on then to old business. And we have Anthony Insaldi, our town administrator, who has joined us just a few minutes ago. Welcome, Anthony. And I think he's going to help us with our senior center status agenda item. So I can't, yep, there you are.
Yeah, so hello, everybody. It's great to see you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person soon. So yeah, I'm happy to go through what the select board will get to see tonight. So let me just share my screen. Right, so you can see that?
Yep, we can.
All right, so obviously the whole space needs study dates back a while, right? It started when I was here and when I was an assistant, and that was somewhere, we started that in probably in 2018. And a lot went into looking at our existing program analysis for every department. And as you can see, Elder and Human Services is the one that's highlighted. Put it up here. So EHS needed Currently was in 6,800 square feet. Needed 13,000, really wanted 20,000. And I think what you're going to see later in some of these slides is a building that's around 16,000 square feet that we're really happy with. So they looked at the 3 locations. They looked at Shattuck Street and renovating Shattuck Street. They looked at King Street, and then they looked at 255 Great Road. After analysis, then we then went to a spot next to the library and started looking at there. That's an early rendition of what we were looking at. But anyways, part of that building, we went through the programmatic review of seeing what that building would look like and how it would work programmatically for EHS and our seniors. So as you can see, these are just some of the programs areas, and there was a two-story building, and you probably remember it looking like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we were going really, really nicely with this until we got to the dollar amounts. So we had originally, when we were looking at this project, this was our goal, right? We were looking at about a 15,000 square foot building. We were hoping that an all-in building project would be about 10,000. And how did we come up with that number? We used the square foot cost on the library and kind of based it on that. So, and the library, I think, was $640 a square foot, around there, $650 or so. What we got from looking at that building were numbers like this. So we were a little higher on the gross square footage. We were at 16.6. The construction cost before the contingency was almost $14.5 million. That's $867 a square foot. So that was $200 a square foot greater than the library. Of course, that's before the contingency, the soft cost factor, which you estimate 30%. So now the cost per square foot all in was going to be $1,100 a square foot. That is crazy high. That's probably unfortunately, COVID has impacted a lot of things, and construction is certainly one of them. So what did we do? We circled back and said, well, if we could look at the tennis court area, that being a site that wouldn't need as much site work, what would that look like? So, and that became even more possible when 31 Shattuck Street put a for sale sign up on their house, right? Because now, and if you can see right, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little diagonal line that goes here, X kind of goes here. That's that triangle that we're looking to just carve off. So the house would stay, obviously, in their driveway, but by taking this section and then adding on to here, this back area, we square off that or rectangle off that lot, and that allows us to have the space which we believe can create a really nice home for EHS. So going through this, we had a number of meetings that we went and looked at. Fortunately, we had a lot of the programmatic on what we know we wanted and what worked. So now we wanted to incorporate that into this new site. So there's some site specifics. I'm going to skip through some of these, but here's a floor plan. So this would be the first, at the entrance of the building. So to my left, the blue area would be the administrative area with the recreation desk, which Liz really likes because it's kind of jets out and it gives a nice view of the entire floor plan.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, if I may ask Anthony
Yes.
a question.
Sure.
Certainly.
So is this, Anthony, are these doors facing Shattuck Street or facing the library that we're looking at?
Facing the library. So you'll get a better glimpse of that and more pictures. But yes, Gary, that's facing the library. So what you're actually going to see is it's not sitting on the tennis courts. It's actually going to be sitting level with the library. So the doors will be almost opposite each other. The library front door to the EHS front door. So this would be the second floor. So we still have our programmatic area that we need. Oh, there's multi-purpose room here with a industrial kitchen. The second floor, we have some program rooms. We'll have sinks in them. We have a billiards area, card area, exercise equipment, and then an open space for more yoga and Tai Chi and all those fun things that Liz and her team puts together for our seniors. So here's some diagrams that I'll try to get to the good ones that make us really excited. So what you're seeing here is on the top picture would be the front. So that would be the front door of the center, and that would be the multi-purpose room. And this would be the back. That would be Shattuck Street. So when you're looking at Shattuck Street, you're not looking at a two-story structure. You're actually looking at floor 2 of EHS. So it's gonna, look, and it's gonna be set more closer to the library. So it's not gonna be, this large building that people may have thought that they'd be seeing as they drive down Shattuck Street. So that's the picture that gets us really excited because we think that that's a really nice, attractive building. And that's a view as if you're kind of right in front of the parking lot of the library looking at the tennis court area. That's what you would see. This is another view from further down in the library looking at the center. This is the back of the building, which is, so Shattuck Street would be over here. So as you can see, it's set closer towards the library, and you're only going to see a one floor, which really lends to a nice residential feel. So that's not out of place with some of the homes on Shattuck Street. Again, this is the front of the library. I don't know if I went forward or backwards. Sorry. And then these are just some more sketches of what the building would look like at different, we're looking at different roof lines and so forth with these. And then there's 2 project schedules that LLB will talk about tonight. One, if we were more aggressive and tried to go for construction funding in October. But more likely I think the second one is we'd be looking for going to town meeting a year from now for, well, depending, I know that the article has everything built into it that would allow us to go right into construction, but in all reality with the design documents that they need, there's a 6 to 8 month window where they have to do all of the designs and engineering studies and all that stuff that goes into building a building. So it's getting there. It's getting there, but happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the board members?
I see Mark.
Okay, I didn't see him, sorry. I don't
Yes,
get a
sir.
picture of everybody, so speak up or let Liz know.
Is there a cost estimate yet for this, or when will there be
No,
a cost estimate?
We're gonna have a cost estimate probably in about 10 days, 10 to 12 days.
Okay, thank you.
Obviously, the goal of moving it over to that site in front of the library was it would be less site work that would be needed with all those retaining walls that we had in with the previous building. As you know, Mark, building a building off of a slope site, you got to have pretty substantial retaining walls and so forth. This kind of takes away some of that site work, which we believe is going to produce a even lower estimate.
Is there any picture of how it actually fits on the lot? Where, with comparison to where the existing tennis courts are and the existing house and the existing building from above?
So right there is the closest that I can give you, right?
I don't know where the tennis courts really are.
It would
So-
sit right here. Summit tennis courts would sit right here. There's a kind of a square area.
Okay.
Anthony, so it appears that we're looking at that house that the town has proposed to purchase. With this drawing, it looks like the driveway will be able to stay on the left side of that house. I know that was a concern to some of the residents on Shattuck, among other things, but that was definitely one concern. Is that correct?
Yeah, we think that that's the case too, Gary. And certainly we can talk about easements for them and so forth to have that.
Yeah.
Even if it did end up encroaching onto the land that we were gonna get. But to answer your question, I believe that their driveway should be fine. Obviously, we have to get it surveyed and we're still working on that, but everything's looking promising right now.
Are there plans to present this to the planning board anytime soon to figure out the parking needs and their requirements?
Not yet. No. We're not there
It
yet.
does. Okay. It looks like there's going to need to be more parking but that's just my take.
Anthony,
Hey, Dave.
yeah, hi. That's sort of, Mark just touched on that. That picture, it just looks kind of pinched in the parking lot between the proposed building and the library. I don't suppose there's any way to open that up a little wider, is there?
When you say pinched,
Well, I see there's parking spaces in front of in the library and then in front of the proposed building, but you've also got like a horseshoe driveway there.
yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a nice design, but it almost looks to me like everything's kind of pinched in and maybe you could spread that parking lot a little bit more because even right now it's kind of tight.
You know, the goal was to allow for people to be dropped off in front of the center and maybe
Yeah.
if you had some kind of covering above where they're getting dropped off, they wouldn't be getting out into the elements. So we're still working on that, but
Yeah,
that was the goal of having that turnaround. So people can then drop off and easily exit the parking lot if they were just dropping off.
okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think parking has always been a concern at this center. I mean, obviously there's a senior center currently existing, but it really depends also on what happens to the Shattuck Street complex, the actual building, the town office building and where that leads, because there is space there in front of that building potentially for parking. And that entire end of the building where the road forks goes out in front of the Neshoba garage, there's a lot of land space there too that is probably in discussion. I know I had Chairman DeCoste had mentioned that area down there possibly is, if we really get into a parking situation, obviously depending on what happens to the town hall building and where how that is going to look after all of this.
Yeah, actually, we're picking up 18 parking spots with this plan right now.
Okay.
In front of the center. So
That's a lot. I mean, we have, like I said, we currently have a senior center and the
Right.
population it's tight. I know on certain days for sure. But that's good to hear that at least 18, but I'm not a planning expert on parking, so sure. Mark probably has a little bit more knowledge on that one.
yeah, but I think you said it the best, Gary, right? We have an existing EHS and it sits right here at Shattuck Street.
Yeah.
So we're not adding a new function to this building. We're just moving this over to its own structure. So, it's nothing's taken its space, something new. So, and certainly I've seen plenty of spaces available in front of the library, especially going down here. We feel comfortable with this plan with parking.
Yeah.
And it really still creates it actually creates a nice campus, like you said, Gary. If something was to happen with Shattuck Street down the road, this in itself right here, it's a nice campus. It's two town buildings facing each other that still has that campus feel, So, and that's something that we were excited about as well.
Anthony, what is that structure in the middle of the parking lot with all the little squares? Is that some kind of a cover?
That's
covered area?
just drainage. That's a drainage for the parking lot that exists with the library. So they just put that in there. That's existing.
Okay, thank you.
What I like about this is that we have been able to have lunches for over 100 already. And this project doesn't take away any of the parking lot out back, and we gain 18 spots. So I think that's a positive.
Yeah, I would agree, Anita. And I think depending on the peak times too, I think the library's peak usage is not the same, maybe peak usage as the center, as the EHS, the Shattuck Center will be. So, I think that they'll complement each other as far as parking.
If I can say, quite frankly, I think that it's nice. A lot of seniors use the library. And in fact, the library has the computer room access and facilities, and seniors, I'm sure, will be taking advantage of that. So I kind of like the idea of having them as close together. I think it's more convenient for seniors.
Marge, may I add something?
Yes, certainly. Sorry. I can't see everybody, so I
No
I can't
problem.
see when hands are raised or anything.
No, I just want to play off what you just said. I think having these two town buildings right across from each other creates kind of a little cultural center where we can collaborate together and do more programs and share our patronage with one another. And I think it just makes sense to have library and EHS senior center right next to each other. I'm so thrilled with the layout. I love programmatically how the building flows. I think this will really meet everyone's needs, from people who are coming in for outreach or coming in for lunch or exercise. This layout really is spectacular.
Oh, I know. So I have a question for Anthony. Anthony, that
Yes.
kitchen, you said it was going to be industrial, but it's not. You meant commercial more?
Yeah, commercial, yes.
Yeah,
Thank you, Marge.
okay.
Yeah.
Just want to catch that because I
Yeah,
think that
commercial. You're right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
it's more, visually, it's more satisfying to the eye, I think, to have it more commercially designed. So, okay, thank you. Any other comments? I'm excited. Even though it's, a little delay, a bump in the road here, but it's still, quite frankly, personally, I think it's a better option than the slope design was. I like the design of the building and the whole setup, so. Let's just hope we can get everything going, and we have to have, then town meeting has to approve the purchase of the property, right? To keep things on track. I assume that's correct.
Correct. You're gonna get, right.
Yeah.
That article at town meeting is important to this project.
Yep. So anything we can do to help that, I think would be important.
I think I finance committee meeting last week, and we had a lot of the Shattuck Street neighbors, well, the three, that had some concerns, obviously, because of the unknown. This I think is going to at least help them visually understand what's going to go there. But also just kind of the As opposed to going to town meeting, not knowing what they're looking at. So
Right.
I think this will help, in that regard. But Anthony, I know there was some discussion, but that was more, so if we did not have an estimate, I'm just talking, I'm sorry, from a FinCom perspective.
Sure.
So within 10 days, sounds like we're going to have an estimate before town meeting, which is going to be obviously very important for that article to go this May.
Yeah, but keep in mind, Gary, it's a preliminary estimate. You know, as they go along, that number gets refined. And I think Mark can probably speak to that because he witnessed that on the library project. Yeah, it's a good first number coming out of the box.
I wonder if after tonight's meeting, when it does get put out into the public, is it a good idea or not, Anthony, for you to maybe come on our highlight show and explain all the articles, because there's more than just this Article 20 that needs to be voted to go forward? Would you be willing to come and explain all of that on our show to the seniors before our town meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tim and I will do our town meeting prep show. So where we go through all the articles, but I definitely see a value in talking more about this article, which I think it's Article 12, and really making sure that people fully understand what's going on, because there's a lot in that article.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, so the clearer that we can make it in advance of town meeting and answer any questions, the better we'll be.
So we will talk to you about a date that's convenient for you.
Sure.
Okay.
Liz will be joining me.
Right.
All right. Do we have any other questions for Anthony? We'll be learning more this evening. I'm grateful that you came and gave us this preview, though, Anthony. It's going to be a lot more, for me anyway. I'm sure I'll be understood more easily tonight. So, but it's wonderful. I'm thrilled with the drawings. I love the way that it's set up with it, one level showing on Shattuck Street and having the two levels down a little bit, into the parking area down that way and just down the slope. Really neat.
Right. And the height is, I think there's a slide. The height is, it comes down to being about the same as the, right here. The same, pretty much the same as the height as the library. When all said and done.
Nice.
Might be a little bit higher.
Oh.
Anthony, can you talk a little bit about the two different schedules and how that's going to work and who's making that decision?
So the architects are going to go through that tonight, Mark. So
okay,
it's
that's fair.
Yeah, they'll better be able to explain that. We could run on the first proposal right here, but it's much tighter of a time frame, and we're thinking that second option is probably the one that's going to make sense. It's going to take 6 to 8 months, I think they said, to go through to create all the drawings and to be ready to go out to bid. So still a lot of work that they have to do.
Right. Speaking from the library perspective, our drawings were farther along than I think the senior center drawings are, and we struggled to go between May and October to get something reasonably close. So
yeah, if we didn't run into, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So I think the 6 to 8 months is still fairly optimistic, right? And I think the longer schedule is more realistic. And it probably, well, yeah, it probably won't hurt you in the construction environment either. I doubt things are going to continue to escalate at the same rate.
Right. His notes, Mark, was the first schedule, it's still valid. It proposed going to fall town meeting with an 80% construction documents, project cost estimate for approval through construction. It's still valid and possible. The April 1st version, that second version, is based upon the volatility of the construction market. It may be better to go completely through the project bidding and go to Springtown meeting with a hard number, but bid in hand project estimate. So, that's the thing. COVID is just a gift that keeps giving, right? And it's affected our construction. And if we went with 100%, which is what they're saying in 2, we're going to have a number that we can feel comfortable with. If we force it in October, it's 80%. It's still a very volatile market right now for construction because of COVID and everything else that's going on in the world. So, and that's a decision that ultimately will have to be made.
Well, speaking from the library perspective, we were basically at 80 or 85% when we went to town meeting, and the numbers we got back when we actually put it out to bid were even higher than we expected. So, so it's much better to wait until you have firmer bids or the CM at risk on board or something like that. I think it would be a much better solution. That's just my take based on the experience with going from the library. So you don't have to come back and ask for more money or guess wrong. So,
right. It certainly gives us another opportunity to tuck some more money away to the project. At this time last year, we were sitting with $3 million in that stabilization fund. After this town meeting, we're going to be over $5 million in that stabilization fund. So, if we waited, that's another point that we might be able to tuck away some more money, which would decrease the borrowing cost that we'll need to ultimately need to finish the project.
Is it 5 million or 5 million minus the cost of the eminent domain?
It's 5 million. The eminent domain is coming from free cash.
Okay.
And remember, we're going to sell that. We're going to sell that house right after we do what we need for that lot and do a new A&R. And once we do that, then the funds for the house will be used to pay off the debt service for the new senior center. That's how Mass General Law requires us to use those funds when we sell a property.
Okay.
Okay.
So my last question on this is, if we're not going to be doing construction before October, is there still plans to ask for a cap in May, or are we going to do that in October or next May?
I think this is more information than both the FinCom and the Select Board had when they added to the article, and that's certainly, that I think there's a reason why Gary wanted to do this as a joint meeting. Maybe that's a discussion that they collectively have, and maybe want to do something different.
Okay.
For that article.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Anthony? Any hands raised, Liz? No? Okay. Well, thank you ever so much, Anthony. That was really very helpful and very informative. So, and a great update.
Happy to provide that update for
And
you.
we'll see you tonight.
Yes, and it'll be done by our architects, so they'll put it much more eloquently than I did, I'm sure.
No doubt.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, everybody, I have to run to another meeting. It was great seeing everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All righty. Well, that's exciting. So moving on. So we're under old business B, draft of the MOU between the COA board and the Friends of the Littleton COA board. And so to kick this off, I would like to, for clarification for our viewers and guests, I just want to point out that this discussion is open only to board members. If the board comes to an agreement and votes to accept an MOU draft document today, that document then will be shared with the Friends with a request to provide feedback to the COA board at our May 9th meeting. And then if we do not have any feedback from the Friends on May 9th, the COA board will forward the MOU to the select board. I just want to clarify, discussion is about a draft that was put together for the COA board to determine if they want or do not want, if they want to change or they do not want to change, etc. And then we'll move forward and share that and ask the Friends for their input. That is the plan. So, just so, because I know people want to speak and it's not fair. I mean, the Friends haven't seen our draft, and so it would not be even fair really for them to know what they were. Perhaps, they won't know the whole draft. So, okay. So we have a draft that was put together essentially with Liz by Liz and Anita and myself, and it strictly is that. We have not taken a vote on anything yet, and so we welcome comments from board members, recommendations for changes, see if we can pull something together that we feel comfortable with, and then take a vote on. So I open it up to the board for discussion.
Just one question before we start on that. It's
Yeah.
my understanding that in the earlier conversations, we heard that the Friends have their own MOU that they're working on as well.
Well, what Holly said was that I believe she distributed a document at their meeting, and it was a draft of what an MOU, a memorandum of understanding is, and the purpose of one, etc. She shared that with Anita and I, who were present at her meeting. And it sounds like they're working on something, and that's fine. But I think it's only fair that they see what we also have worked on, and maybe it would help them too. And then we can hopefully come together with an understanding on what we feel is going to be the workable tool, the one that will be most helpful to us, to both groups. Obviously, we're not going to do something and not have, I feel strongly that we need to have their feedback, and they're part of this. So. But we cannot hold meetings and discuss this other than at our regularly scheduled meeting. The open meeting law prevents that from happening, and the Friends can get together and have meetings, that aren't involving outside people. So it's a little bit different procedures that have to be employed. So what's the feeling about the draft MOU that was sent out to you? Are there recommendations for change? Questions? Yes, Susan.
I really like the whole thing in general. The first two paragraphs that give the purpose and the roles, I think, really outline where we are and what both sides or what both groups, their roles and their purpose. In the section that is bulleted,
yep,
it says the COA agrees. I thought that the sixth one, I numbered them down. So I thought that the sixth one and the eighth one were basically the same, but maybe there's some difference. Maybe you or Liz could explain the difference between those two. I agree with the ideas in them. I'm just I thought it was sort of wording the same.
Where's
You were right,
this?
Susan. They're very duplicative and I could combine them into one. One is discussing providing monthly financial updates to the Friends, and the other is providing the documentation for the financial updates. I can easily combine those into two,
In
into one, I'm sorry.
in this discussion, I thought we had discussed that you would report to the COA the way the funds were spent. And that's not clear here. That you would report to the COA board how the funds are spent on a monthly basis.
I was hoping to leave it somewhat open. So it says the COA agrees to provide a monthly financial update, and in saying it in that way, I was hoping that the COA could encompass either the COA board, the COA staff. I didn't want to limit us too much. I wanted to maintain some flexibility.
Okay.
Open to changing it.
I think that makes sense because your requests that to us or financial updates to us really don't involve the Friends at that moment, right? It's when we present it to the Friends on a monthly basis or whenever they meet, we have our member discuss those things. I think this captures that piece of it. Anita, your piece is more between Liz and the COA, right?
Right.
So it's kind of our memorandum of agreement with Liz.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. Good points, though.
So I think the way it says the COA on all of these things, it's a little confusing to me because it seems like there's a three-party agreement here. Where we're in the purpose where it's defining the COA, it's unclear if they mean the COA meaning Liz and the staff or the COA meaning the board, right? Because a lot of the things that say the COA are not things that the board is going to be doing. Some of them are, but most of the stuff is what Liz is and the staff is going to be doing. So I think the memorandum needs to be reworded so that it's really more of a three-party agreement than the way it's worded is kind of a two-party agreement where it's unclear who the COA is, whether it's Liz or us, right? Because some of the things sound like they're more directed at us and some of them sound like they're more directed at Liz. And I'm just picking on Liz specifically, but I really mean the whole department.
Yeah, well, you're saying the staff and or the board.
Right. So some of these things like the COA, like the board isn't going to provide documentation on how the money was spent or set up the gift accounts and things like that. Right. That's Liz. But then some of the other things are more like what we would be doing. So I really think it needs to be reworked as more of a three-party agreement, or we need to get out of it altogether and it's just an agreement more between Liz and the Friends of the COA.
Yeah, Mark, I think I agree that this needs to probably be mainly on that one you mentioned about setting up the town gift accounts and things like that. That's definitely probably a Liz, her office, but I think a lot of the point here was you can't get into a situation where Liz is reporting to the Friends of the COA and then reporting to us. And that's kind of, I think that it had to be clear. All of this is coming to the COA, and then the COA has these responsibility with Friends to provide this information either upon request or monthly when we attend their meetings as dictated by this. So, but there are a couple lines in here. You're right. We're not setting up the financial update on the two gift accounts, probably.
Right. And basically the way it would work then is Liz would have to come to us and say, I need money from the Friends. And then we would have to go to the Friends and say, we need money for Liz. So it now becomes like this third thing if the COA is involved. So it slows everything down even further, potentially, right? I think what's in the agreement is good. I just think it needs to be clarified on the COA versus Liz, and I just don't have another term for Liz. So I apologize for that, but
The director, the EHS
yeah,
director.
it's
Yeah.
just simpler. I'm not, yeah.
So would it make sense for this document to have a third bulleted section? The EHS or COA staff agrees, and then pull out the bullet points that are confusing, or change the definition at the beginning?
I would separate out what the COA agrees to do from what the staff agrees to do, right?
Okay.
That would be my, yeah.
I guess, why is that bullet in there? So you're agreeing to set up town gift accounts for the two following categories. That's not an agreement with really the Friends. You're doing that. That's right. I mean, so I don't know if you're agreeing, you don't want to be bound to the Friends to set those accounts up. You're setting those up because we need those accounts, right? The town does. So I don't know. Now the reporting on that piece comes absolutely if you're drawing money into those accounts, from the Friends, then the reporting piece, sure. But I think this might hamstring you a little bit if that ever changes. Maybe there's a third account that comes up, so I don't know if that needs to be an agreement or on an agreement to the Friends. But maybe I don't know. I'd like them to see this draft too. Like they are going to. I know it's only a draft, so there's a lot to it. But Mark, you brought up some interesting points. Now that I think about the director's piece to this and how much what she's doing needs to be on here as opposed to how we're reporting it to the Friends is more important, right? So the fact you're setting up those gift accounts, okay, that's it's important, but I don't know if the Friends need to worry about those two gift accounts. They need to worry about if you're requesting money from them or drawing money from those, and that needs to be reported. But I don't know. Maybe funny, when I first looked over this, I didn't see all these little things. No.
I didn't either. It is good. You raised some good points, Mark.
I'm curious as to if you put Liz as the director. She's the director of EHS.
Right.
And that's different because the Friends can't do anything for EHS. They can only do COA. They can't.
That's not true, right? They can change that whenever they want by updating their bylaws.
They can, but at the moment, that's how it is, unless they change it.
So it's their choice to only fund COA events, not to fund EHS events. It's their choice. There's nothing legally that says they have to fund only COA events, other than their bylaw says they will only fund COA events. They can update their bylaw at any annual meeting, basically. All members of the Friends of the COA can vote to update that bylaw, and then they can fund any event. So I wouldn't put the thing in there that says only over 60s. I would say that we agree to fund it only according to ask for things that meet their bylaw requirements. So if they update their bylaws, you don't have to change that.
Yeah.
There's a couple others on page 2, the third bullet. Say the Friends agree that any and all monies raised will be spent exclusively for COA programs. They can't agree to that because they also have expenses they have to fund, right? They pay for taxes and things and their fundraising mailings and things. So they can't put all of their money. So that has to be reworded slightly.
I definitely agree. I was just looking at that, and I think in that sentence where I said in other COA defined needs, such as kickstarting a fundraiser, unless otherwise agreed to, I think I meant to say other Friends defined needs, such as.
Yeah.
But I'll highlight that to reword as well.
If you continue down on the second page, underneath the section Friends of the COA gift resident outreach needs.
Mhm.
In the sentence that says such as SNAP, food stamps, SMOC, fuel assistance, St. Vincent de Paul charity, I believe should be taken out of there because the Friends should support before St. Vincent de Paul does.
Okay.
That's my feeling. That's up to you guys.
Makes sense.
Why is that other line in there about requests must not be able to filled through other funds such as Cooper, Bradford, Sampson? Why? Are we just saying that we agree not to spend the Friends money before we exhaust other sources, or?
That was the intent. That's how we typically do things first. If we can fund it in another way, like Bradford Sampson's, that's specifically for veterinary bills. If someone comes to us with a veterinary bill, we would go that route first rather than asking for the Friends assistance for help.
Any other comments, thoughts?
Yeah, I have one.
Yep. Susan?
Underneath the Friends agree, the fifth bullet down, the Friends agree that if they cease to actively fundraise, etc.
Yep.
Can we really put that in there? Or should we put that in there? What was the thinking behind putting that in there?
So that came from a library MOU that I had found. Basically, if a Friends group were to go defunct and not exist anymore, I guess that's the intent of it, that they would disband and we would be able to create a new one. But I can't see any scenario right now where that would happen. So I don't think that necessarily needs to be in there unless we all agree it would need to be.
What happens, I mean, do the state laws come into play with nonprofits, and what happens when a nonprofit, that's what you're saying. If a nonprofit decides they're no longer be in existence, what is the requirement? What has to happen so that another group could maybe reform and run that? I guess I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question myself, but I'm wondering.
That's an interesting one. Would they be able to take the money of this Friends that was sitting there and move it into a new Friends? That's kind of what we're after, right? So if something happened with this group, and there's money sitting there, where does it go? You would hope that another Friends group could step in and then the money could be transferred. I'd let the Friends work on this piece.
Yeah.
Because this is a
I
lot.
don't know. Yeah. That's a very technical, I think that's probably it's a very legal probably.
But I think Liz's comment kind of clears up, because it looked, I know, Susan, when I read, I was like, well, that's kind of mean. But
Not my intention.
no, I know. And I get what you meant by, that's why when I looked at it, I was kind of, okay, I see. If something ever happened where they no longer are going to exist, or their membership is down, or they can't even operate, to keep this moving, we would want another Friends group to be able to. Yeah.
So I'm going to highlight this one in a different color for the Friends to weigh in on when we send this over to them.
Okay. I mean, they may know. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the, nonprofit laws too, and how that all works.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate for a minute.
Go for it.
If we agree with changes and send it to the Friends, and the Friends do not agree with this, what happens then? I mean, if this is something we're going to do and we're gonna make a decision, get the wording changed to what we want it to be, the way we want to operate, and send it over to the Friends and they don't agree, where does it go from there?
Well, I was hopeful, and in my mind, I'm always thinking we can, I mean, I certainly don't expect, oh, David's got his hand raised. Go ahead, David.
Okay,
Oh, I've been later.
We're working on this document, okay, and at the same time, the Friends are working on theirs. So we can submit this to them, but they're gonna submit theirs to ours, okay, and there'll definitely be some changes. So just everybody shouldn't forget that they have one that's coming to us. Thank you.
Go ahead, Liz.
Thank you. I did have a conversation with Holly, who I think is still on the call. So I think both groups are headed in the same direction. And like Holly mentioned in the beginning, that they're planning to create gift account. And I think the intent of our MOU meets their intent. The document that Holly shared with me for their MOU is basically a template. It doesn't have really the meat to it yet. So I'm hoping this actually makes their job a little easier and they can find what they like in here, find our common ground, what we agree on, and maybe even put it into their template, which looks a little more formal than my template here. But I do think we're both headed in the same direction with the gift accounts and the agreements, and I'm hoping this makes everybody's job easier.
Mark?
Are we gonna specify a dollar
Hold on,
amount?
Go ahead. So my suggestion would be that we appoint a couple COA members to work with Liz and Holly or whoever on the Friends of the COA to kind of finalize this agreement so that either at the May or the June meeting, we're ready to vote it. Because the full board doesn't need to be involved in the negotiations, right? Whatever we're going to call those, and the wording changes, and then we can come back to the board when it's mostly agreed to by, it's like a union vote, right? You have your representatives that are negotiating the contract, and then you come back and say, this is the contract that we've negotiated with the other party. So it should be approached more that way, I think. And I don't think there's any reason we shouldn't be voting on this today. It's not ready to be voted on, in my opinion, right? There's a lot of wording changes and things, and it would just be something we'd be re-voting on again in May and June and July until it's all agreed to by the others. So this is just a working session, right? And I think we can just, like I said, just a few of us can go and work with Liz and Holly or whoever else on the Friends side and hammer it out, and it would go much quicker.
Anybody else? Anita, did you want to say something before
I did
Mark?
not. No.
Okay.
I just wondered, are we gonna put a dollar amount in the gift accounts?
Well, I think I like that suggestion, Mark, of having a little bit of a work group, a couple of board members and Liz and Holly. And I tend to agree with what Liz said. I think everybody has the same general thinking about this, and everybody's in concert as far as working together and coming up with a workable tool. So, and it's going to take some more tweaking. That's all.
We can also through, take the representatives can report back and say, this is the latest working draft, and you can comment on it as long as you're commenting directly to that person and not CCing everybody and saying, this is what I think. Because then it can become more of a one-on-one discussion back and forth, giving your feedback on how you want it, rather than something that's an open board discussion. I believe that works that way. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gary. You have other experience with the open meetings too. But I think as long as you're not having a group discussion and not really carrying on serial discussions, it should be fine.
Well, and you really can't have, too many people involved either. If you have, two board members, yeah, that's right.
Well, no, but like Liz can send out a draft and we can all comment on the draft back to Liz, who can incorporate the comments and send out another draft with those incorporated comments. But we can't have a group discussion where it's like, well, I think this comment, and you say, no, I don't agree with that. We can all feed them back to one central point who can aggregate them and then send out another, right? But we can't share the comments amongst ourselves.
So she can send out, yes, a document for comments. We can all comment back. We just cannot debate each other's comments. That's where you.
Yes.
Correct,
Yes.
right.
Okay. So, yes, Liz.
So from this point, I will go back and work on some of the comments I received today and then clarify staff role in this three-party agreement or understanding. And then I'll go ahead and send it back to the board. If that's okay.
Everybody agree with that? Do we have anybody that's concerned about that? If so, raise your hand, please.
I think that's a good starting point to try to finish it and fix it.
Okay,
And I'm willing to step up and help Liz if she wants help from our perspective, having done this once before. So I'm willing to step up and be the COA representative if she wants help. And I'm
I think
take
she
anyone
said
else's
yes.
help.
I think she said yes.
Yes, please.
And is there any other board member that would like to be involved to help?
Don't all volunteer at once.
Well, I'm happy to do it if there's another person needed, but I mean, if somebody else would like to do it, I think, I'm not the most knowledgeable person about this. Certainly, I don't have the knowledge that Mark has. So, Marilyn, yes?
I think I would like to
Okay,
help with it.
Great.
all right, so there we go. So we have a plan. I don't think we need to have a vote on that, this plan. And we're making progress. So, is everybody happy with this now, where we are with it and proceeding? Okay, I'm seeing some people nod heads, but anybody want it done differently? I think it's going to take time. It will. It's a work in progress. So, however, I was naive enough, I think, to think that we might have. I thought it looked really great too. And until, this is why it was good to have the comments today, because there are things you don't think of individually. So, okay. Are we ready to move on then to the next agenda item? Anyone? No more discussion? And the plan is that Mark and Marilyn and Liz are going to collaborate and send a draft of whatever they put together out for comments only. No deliberations. So we don't get in trouble with the open meeting law. Correct, Gary and Mark?
Yes.
The way we got to do it. Okay, got it. Everybody else understand that too? So when you get the a draft of something. Okay. Moving on. How are we doing? It's a good thing. It's 4:14. We've got to be done by 4:30. So do we have any board member updates under new business? And is Tim with us, Liz?
Tim just popped in and said he had to go and he was very sorry, but he has an event tonight.
Oh, okay. So that's okay
But-
then.
He'll hop
That's
on next time.
Okay. The board member updates, does anybody have an update to share? Nope, Susan's nodding her head, I think no. You're muted.
In the interest of time, it's okay.
Okay, all right.
Just,
Then,
Marge,
yes.
my only input would be, just an update on Finance Committee has held off on the recommendation for Article 12 for the senior center, and we're probably going to push it as close to town meeting as we can, because we don't like voting on unknown numbers.
Okay,
So we'll, just more to come on that, but I would expect very late in the month. We're going to hold a meeting the very last Tuesday of the month, and then if not enough information, then we'll vote on town meeting floor.
okay. Thank you, Gary. All right. And then we're going to move on down to the interdepartmental collaboration agenda item, and that was going to be Tim from Park and Rec, and he was going to come and talk to us a little bit about his thoughts and ideas and plans and et cetera. But we'll catch him for the next meeting, I'm sure. And then we have one last item, and that was a review of an email that was sent to the board. And I'm going to clarify that, and we can do this, I hope, quickly. The COA board received an email from a Littleton resident shortly after our March meeting, as well as an 11-page document also received days later. Today's our first opportunity to acknowledge receipt of the email and of the 11-page document. So what I would like to offer up for comments is the agenda item, which was under discussion, which prompted the email, was only a discussion of whether the COA board desired to draft an MOU between the board and the Friends of the COA. In order to make the decision that day, a month ago, 2 small incidents, as the author of the email identified, were mentioned to clarify why the MOU might be helpful. And the incidents did occur, and they were truthful examples of things that occurred. And I personally am so sorry that the intent of the board was misconstrued. At no time were the friends trashed royally and or devalued. The reality is that I believe the COA board highly values the role of the Friends of the Littleton COA and their support of senior services in Littleton. And I'd just like to point out, the reason this whole discussion about an MOU was brought up was to improve procedures used by both the Friends and the COA. So I welcome board members' input on the email. I've just summarized my feelings about it and wanted to acknowledge, and we do value the Friends. There's no question in my mind about that. And I think there was just a misunderstanding about why the discussion was held. So, and I'll open it up to you board members. Anyone have any comments they'd like to add? Ian Lee, yes.
Yeah, I just want to say that I agree with you that I certainly, as a member of the board, more than appreciate all the work that the Friends do for us, that we can't do it. And without the Friends, we would be nowhere. We would be, searching for monies from different places. I, as a new member, I was totally taken back that our last meeting was met with ill feelings. I never took it from anybody's point of view that anything was being pointed at. I just felt that we were trying to get to a point where we had to communicate and no ill feelings towards anybody.
Thank you, Ann Lee. Anyone else wish to speak?
I wasn't at the meeting, March, but
Yes.
I did watch the meeting. So I would suggest that it's not always in the individuals that say something that hurt someone's feelings. They're not the ones that probably should be addressing necessarily the they can talk about intent, but the fact of the matter is if it made someone feel a certain way, then that's what we should probably try to work on, right? So obviously, this is a public document, I'm assuming, the email, since we're discussing it.
We were asked to share it with the entire board.
All right,
And the
so-
only way we could share it was in a public meeting. We don't discuss things privately.
Okay, so this is Miss McCrae, Barbara McCrae. So a long history on, like she had mentioned, on the Council on Aging and Friends. So there's a lot of history there, and we all are aware of it. I know a lot of the new members are aware. We became aware of it as soon as we came on the board. That there's a lot here and we're working through a lot of these problems. I think. I know there's much better days ahead as far as communication, and that's what we're trying to get to. But I am glad that whatever was spoken, I think it probably did get misconstrued. The intent probably wasn't to hurt anyone's feelings, but the fact of the matter, it did. So,
Right.
Perhaps somebody probably should reach out to Barbara and apologize and explain that. Even though if this is the meeting that we're doing that, that's fine too. But I know if it was me, if I said something that hurt someone in the community, like the intent, I would definitely want to reach out to them and say, I apologize. Either I shouldn't have said it that way, or I'm sorry it came across that way. But I don't know if there's other members. Is she speaking for a group? Is she, or is she speaking just on behalf of herself? But either way, I'm glad you have it on the agenda because it is important to address. But these are things that we are getting better at, absolutely. And literally, the intent of the MOA is to really help.
Right.
Iron some of these things out. So I'm going to keep trying to look forward in a positive, optimistic light. So I think we're, but I have a lot of respect for Barbara. So I don't want to just throw it under the table and say we didn't give it its popular or enough attention. So.
No, and I totally agree with you, Gary, and that is why, though, I felt it needed to be brought and put on the agenda so that,
Well,
I know it's out there. Go ahead, Anita. And we're running, we have 8 minutes left. So, I know.
I'll speak in the fact that the 2 items that were brought up, they were brought up by me only as suggestions of things that were not being communicated or worked right, and I had the feeling that Liz was being treated very unfair. And so my comments simply were to make sure that everyone understood that Liz is the director and we're there to protect her. And if there's a way to do that, that's fine. I didn't say anything to trash anybody. We believe the Friends are very important to the COA. And I was just there protecting the director.
Thank you. Okay. And I certainly will talk to, on behalf of the board, I will talk to Barbara, Gary. So.
Oh, don't do it for me. I just,
No, well, I think I can speak for the board pretty much. And I spoke for myself, certainly, in the beginning, so. Any other comments? Thank you. Then let's move right quickly into the reports. I'm so sorry, Liz and Amy, who's sitting there patiently. Nicole was with us, so. And I did send you Nicole's, I apologize, I was late in sending you Nicole's report. She's always so prompt and has it done so early. And I just neglected to send it to you with the rest of all of your information. Go ahead, Liz.
Okay, I'm going to share screen. Okay, everyone able to see the statistics, the annual?
Yep.
So we had a pretty good jump in our statistics for March. Things are looking up. Our event sign-ins, our over 60 outreach, our transportation, things are still not pre-COVID, but they are definitely getting there. And this is really, really great to see that it's finally coming back around. And I'm hoping the good weather and the lower COVID numbers are working in our favor. I won't go over Nicole's statistics just in the interest of time, but you do have that. The other three things I had on my list, I'll go through quickly so Amy can have a chance to speak. I did want to say that the Senior Tax Work-Off program is wrapping up next month in May. We have about 30% of our, well, we have 98 active senior tax workers. About 30% of them have already handed in a timesheet totaling over 1,800 hours at this point. So that's a fantastic asset to the town. That's really exciting. And if anyone is listening and needs to hand in their timesheet next month, I believe it is May 20th is the date that needs to be handed in. I also wanted to let everyone know that there's a fantastic new highlights show out that Anita and Susan did with Amy and the Littleton Police Department on check washing scams. That's a really informative show. It's on YouTube and on demand on the Littleton Community Television website. So please take a minute to check that out. And the other thing I already mentioned was that we did receive a $900 check from the Friends. That was part of their annual pledge for people who checked off that they wanted to make a donation for the new building gift fund. So I did receive that check, and it will be brought to the next select board meeting next Monday for acceptance. And then I will turn it over to Amy for the outreach report, if that's okay with you, Marge.
Yep, that's great. Go for it, Amy. We got 4 minutes. Sorry.
I talk fast, so it works. So just a reminder for everyone, fuel assistance applications, the deadline for that program through SMOC is April 30th. So if folks have follow-up documentation that they need to submit, or if they need to apply, come see me, call me, let's get an appointment on the books so that we can get that in. For folks that don't fall within the income requirements for the fuel assistance program, there is an alternative option. We can attempt to apply for a Good Neighbor Energy Fund, which is through Salvation Army. So folks just need to contact me to review the guidelines quick, more for financial reasons. And then we can talk about the supporting documentation I would need should they be eligible. The UCH experience, which is the event Tim is going to, which I'm going to be meeting him there. We're in the last 2 sessions of the UCH experience. So tonight's session is Superpower, and the final session, which is All Kinds of Kindness, is held on April 25th. We're back at the high school auditorium. We had 2 weeks where we were at the middle school. So now we're back at the high school for the last 2. The last session is on April 25th, if I didn't mention that. For families and individuals that are struggling with rent, we do have the Littleton Rental Assistance Program and the Emergency Rental Assistance Program that is still accepting applications. Please contact me if you have questions regarding either of those. Just wanted to put a friendly reminder out there about medical equipment. There's been some times where people have left medical equipment that is not in usable condition, which we have to then dispose of. So if you are hoping to donate new equipment, please contact us first just to make sure that we currently have the storage space available to take on the equipment, and so that we can review the types of equipment we can accept versus not accept. People can contact the main office and talk with Sue or myself regarding these. And that's all I got.
Thank you,
How
Amy.
fast I did that.
I think last week we gave away our last wheelchair. So if anyone has a nice condition wheelchair that they're looking to donate, I'm sure we can find a home for it.
Okay, folks, can I have a quick motion to accept the reports?
So
I'll
moved.
move to accept the reports.
Thank you. Who was that?
Second.
Thank you, Mark and Marilyn. Okay, roll call vote. Mark,
Yes.
David's muted. Okay, yes. Okay. Gary,
Yes.
Lorelei?
Yes.
Lorelei, yes, thank you. Ann Lee?
Yes.
And Anita?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
And Marge is a yes, thank you kindly. And we had 4:29. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll
I-
move
I
to
have a-
adjourn.
I
All
have a
right,
quick question
Marilyn.
before.
I'm sorry,
Marge, I have
Marge.
a,
Yes, go ahead.
with review time coming up, does anyone on our board have feedback into Liz's review? How does that work? Or is it all done by Anthony and internal staff?
Generally, it is, I know in the past, sometimes I'm contacted, the chair is contacted, but the board is never involved in the review.
Okay, thank you.
Not to my knowledge, anyway. Real
Before
quick,
before you adjourn, is
Yes.
there any public input?
oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Anita. It is now 4:30. Is there any public input, Liz, out there that we have not acknowledged?
There's no hands raised.
Okay, thank you kindly. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn now?
I'll move that we adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
and thank you, Gary. Okay, Marilyn,
Yes.
thank you, Gary.
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
thank you. David,
Yes.
Ann Lee,
Yes.
Lorelei,
Yes.
yes. Anita,
Yes?
Susan,
Yes.
and Marge, yes, thank you. I believe we are adjourned at 4:31 PM.